mental health awareness, and tips that you can start using today to start to live a better life. Hey, my name is Coach Wells and I'm a licensed therapist and also I'm a life coach. And today I'm gonna give you guys 10 tips on what you can use today to start to help you to live a better life so that you can be the best father, husband, let's say daughter, wife, entrepreneur, employee, friend, all those things that you're looking for today. And first, I actually want to start off with a story about how I got into mental health. So back in 2015, I actually attended Clemson University, and I started there by simply wanting to be a school counselor. Like I wanted to help people, especially students in Black and brown communities. That was my goal, and I did it. But throughout that journey, I actually started to hit a lot of anxiety. And what happened was I got anxiety because of my health. So typically, I'm very healthy. I don't really get colds, I don't get flus or anything like that. But one day I woke up and I started to get this little rash on my chest and I thought it was nothing. So I just shrugged it off and was like, hey, you know what? I'm good. But what happened next was I started to get these muscle aches in my biceps, these headaches, and I started sneezing and coughing. So naturally, I got a little worried. And what I actually started to do was get anxiety about my anxiety and anxiety about my health. So what happened was I decided to go to a therapist because it started to get in the way of my studies, started getting in my way of my ability to hang out with friends. Like I just couldn't focus because all I could think about was my health. So I went to see a therapist on campus, and I gotta admit, this was all back before COVID. This was before, we could do things virtual. So sitting in the waiting room was actually very nerve-wracking. So I sat in the waiting room and I waited for the therapist to call me in, and we talked. We talked about all the things I was experiencing, and she gave me some tools, some techniques. And then from there, I started to practice them. And I started to practice them day in and day out. And at first, nothing really changed. But as I started to build the muscles, as I started to build the awareness and the mindfulness and started to use the techniques she gave me, I was able to put the anxiety to the side and actually started to get better in my classes, better with hanging out with friends, and just being better with just being focused. So this is the power of mental health. Now, for you that's watching, maybe you're struggling with your mental health. Maybe you've been struggling with the work that you have on your job, your relationships, or even just being amongst yourself. And if so, these tips that I'm going to give you today is really going to help you out. Now, to show you how important mental health is, there's a lot of statistics out there, but there's two that is really surprising to me. One of those being that 1 in 5 people will experience some type of mental health problem. So that's anxiety, trauma, depression, anger management, stress, whatever it is, you name it. Even the things like bipolar, schizophrenia, OCD, like some of those really tougher diagnoses are things that people experience. And you may know some of these people. You may be one of those people. And I want to make sure I give you guys tips today that's going to help you with that. So that's the whole purpose of today. Now, the second statistic that I'm going to give, which is actually shocking to me, again, I'm a licensed therapist and this really stuck with me. Suicide is the second leading cause of death between people between ages 10 to 34, okay? I'm going to say that again. The second leading cause of death between people in ages 10 to 34, right, is suicide. That's the second leading cause. So this is a very, very important topic to discuss. And again, these tips that I'm going to give you today is going to not only help you, but those that you love. So make sure you share this video. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so that way in the future you can get these tips and you have a great place to just refer back to later. All right, so here's the 10 tips. Let's get to it. Tip number 1, start to normalize uncomfortable feelings and uncomfortable thoughts because these things will happen. We are human and the mind is set up to spot danger. If your mind was not set up to spot danger, to spot anxiety, we would walk in the middle of the road without looking both ways, right? You can't do that. So mental health is important, but you need to start to normalize when you find yourself, let's say, experiencing anxiety and giving yourself that, let's say, validation, give yourself the gratitude, the space, give yourself the permission to experience these tough emotions. Now, why do we want to do that? Well, when you do decide to accept, let's say, the anxiety that you're experiencing, it will then give you the ability to go out to do tough things. So let's say you want to go on a date. Let's say you want to go public speaking. Or let's say you want to start a new business. There's going to be some anxiety with these things because they're new. Now, if you tell yourself that you should not feel anxiety, guess what you're going to do? You're going to procrastinate. Or maybe you avoid and put those things that are meaningful in your life off to the side. This is why we need to start to embrace tough emotions and not run away from them. Okay, so tip number 1, start to normalize your anxiety, start to normalize your anger, start to normalize your stress. Now, I'm not saying that as a way to just give up and say, oh, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm sad, and there's nothing that I can do. No, You do this in service of the values that you have. You do this in service of the actions that you need to take. So start to normalize them, all right? There's nothing wrong with, even myself, I experience anxiety at times. I experience stress, I get angry. But I know these are normal emotions that we all feel. If you really want to take this step up, check out the movie Inside Out. That is a great movie. It's a Disney movie, but they do a great job normalizing these emotions. Tip number 2, find out what you care about in life. Now, to do this, I like to talk about the 4 domains of life, and this comes from a framework that I use personally in my psychotherapy sessions. The 4 domains of life include relationships, leisure time, career and education, and then personal growth and personal health. These are the 4 areas that I want you to write down and just say like 4 different boxes. And then what I want you to do is find out what is it that you deeply care about in these areas. Now, someone that doesn't have any, let's say like close contact with these values. So let's say you value connection in the relationship domain, but you don't feel that you have that within your friends, your romantic relationships, or even, let's say, your family. If someone doesn't have that connection, they're gonna feel, let's say, like depressed, down, anxious, whatever it is. So there's this thing, and I got this from Russ Harris. He's a great therapist. He's like the pioneers for acceptance and commitment therapy. He talks about the reality gap. And the reality gap is simple. It's where you are currently in your life versus where you want to be. If there's a big gap, someone's going to experience a lot of frustration. But if there's a smaller gap, that person is going to experience a lot of happiness, a lot more fulfillment than someone who has a huge gap. And we call this the reality gap. But to understand where you stand in that reality gap, you have to figure out where it is that you want to go. What is it that you value? Your values are essentially your roadmap for your life. And it's very important that you take time to figure these things out. Once you do, you start to take actions that are aligned with your values. And the beautiful thing about this is when you identify these, it's easy to tell when you're going in the wrong direction and in the right direction. Again, that's why we call it a roadmap. It's your personal roadmap. So tip number 2, make sure you start to identify your values. Start to look at what you want your life to be all about. So that's tip number 2. All right, tip number 3, mindfulness. Guys, I know you have all heard about it, and some of the great people that you look up to use mindfulness. People like LeBron James, Ray Dalio, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Kanye, like a lot of people, even Barack Obama. A lot of these people that are in very high stressful jobs, positions, they use mindfulness as a way to bring themselves back, to be grounded. Mindfulness, I know you guys have heard of it, like I said, but there are very simple techniques you can use. And I'm gonna give you one right now. It's called box breathing. And it's really simple. What you're gonna do is you're gonna breathe in for 4 seconds. So, and then you're gonna hold it for 4 seconds. And then you're gonna breathe out for 4 seconds. And then you're gonna hold it for 4 seconds. And then you're gonna repeat that process again. So breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, and then hold it for 4, okay? This is a very simple mindfulness technique because you have to be able to focus in this moment in order to make sure that you're executing the ins and outs of the breathing for 4 seconds. Now, throughout this exercise, your mind may go and think about tomorrow. It may think about some work that you have to do. And when that happens, you want to notice it and then bring yourself back to the present. Now, here's another one. I'm gonna give you just a second one. There's more, and actually, what I'm gonna do is in the link below, okay? I'm gonna put a mindfulness ebook that I would love for you guys to utilize because it has 10 plus techniques that you can use just like this in order to help you to start to be grounded. So that way stress, anxiety, and all these things don't really start to rock your world. So here's a second exercise that I love to give my clients in psychotherapy. And this one not only helps with their mindfulness skills, but it also helps them with their ability to focus. And it's mindfulness eating. So what I have them do is I have them pick a food that they really love. And what they do is they go into an area that's by themselves. And when they do that, they turn off their computers, they turn off their cell phones, they turn off everything. And what they're gonna do is just focus on the food, okay? Before they start eating, I ask them to just simply notice it. Notice the colors, notice the shape, notice everything. Notice the smell if you can smell it, right? Be very intentional. Now, for a lot of us when we eat, we typically eat when we're watching TV, or we're on our phones, or we're, let's say, speaking to someone, so we don't really get a chance to enjoy the food that we're eating. We just eat because we know that we're hungry. So we want to just slow down. We want to be very focused, very much so in the present. And the way we do that is by being very, very mindful about how we're eating this food. So once they've looked at it, they observed it, they pick it up and they notice what it feels like. Okay, does it feel soft? Does it feel rough? Are some of it, is some parts of it soft and rough, right? Maybe it changed textures, right? Like an orange, when you first have it, like it's rough, and then when you peel it, it becomes a little soft. And then when they eat it, they notice the different flavors. So if you're eating, let's say, a taco, obviously there are going to be tons of flavors in that taco, right? See if you can notice each and every ingredient that is in that food. And then as you swallow it, just savor it, okay? Don't be so quick to pick up the second bite and start eating more. Take time to savor and reflect. So how does this help in, let's say your business or your friendships? It teaches you to slow down. It teaches you to just to be very appreciative in the moment. So a lot of times we may miss things because we're rushing, right? I know there's times when I'm putting together a web page or a landing page, I find myself missing words, or let's say missing different things like putting the buttons in the right places. If I don't slow down, my work is going to be atrocious. And this is the same thing with whether it's you in, let's say, the career aspect of your life, your relationships, or whatever the case may be. So mindfulness is the key to being able to slow down, focus, and also to let go of things like stressful thoughts, or let's say emotions that are just pulling you to do things that you typically wouldn't do. So start to practice mindfulness. And again, just because you watch this video, I'm gonna tag a link at the bottom so that way you can get a free mindfulness ebook for me. All right, tip number 4, and I love this one, man. Start to add rest to your routine. And I'm gonna say that again. Start to add rest to your routine. And I say that because I know a lot of us in this hustle culture, we always trying to grind and get to the next, let's say, limit, the next height in our business, whether that's making a certain amount of money in a month, or getting X amount of followers, or let's say getting a promotion. And these things are great. I'm not telling you to stop those things, of course, like I'm not. As a matter of fact, one of my top values is hard work, right? But I know that if I hold too tightly to that value, guess what? I'm gonna get burned out. So you gotta start to add rest to your routines. People like LeBron James, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, and a lot of these guys you probably look up to, they spend millions of dollars a year putting rest into their bodies. And that's the thing that separates the average Joes from the pros, is their ability to add rest. So to do that, very simple things. As a matter of fact, tip number 3, mindfulness is a great way. I didn't talk about meditation, but meditation is a way to start to get in that rest. So other things that you can do is simple. Start making sure that you're getting those 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And again, I know that may be tough, especially if you're starting a business, right? If you're starting a new job, right? If you're starting a new project, whatever it is, do not overlook rest. That is so key. All right, another way to get rest actually is just to go is do self-care, right? So for me, I'm lucky. I live in South Florida, so the beach is literally 20 minutes away from my house. So I can go to the beach at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., right? Just to relax. Just to take myself away from it all. For you, if you don't have those things, maybe you have the mountains, maybe you have a park. These are things that you can start to institute in your life, right? Now, if you go back to the 4 domains of life where I talked about the values, one of those values is leisure time. So what do you do to rest? Figure out what that is for you. What does rest look like for you specifically? Now, one thing that I didn't say that I actually do enjoy is church, right? So whatever your spiritual choice is, that can be seen as a form of rest, okay? So make sure you're getting this into your routine. Also, I'm gonna add this too. Don't overlook eating habits, and we're gonna go over that a little bit later today too, but the way that you eat is gonna add to your energy levels, and it's gonna help you to be more you, more energized, a best version of yourself. So rest is very important. Hustle culture is dead. You don't have to keep up with the Gary V's or the Grant Cardones of the world. Like, those guys have like massive teams to make it look like they're always working. But believe me, even they take rest. So make sure you add that to your routine. That's tip number 4. All right, tip number 5, social interactions. You guys have to have people that you can lean on. Don't be the guy or the lady that's like, oh, I don't need people to survive. It's all about me. I can't trust anybody. No, like, you need social and human interaction. That is just a part of like the human like species. If we don't have that, we will actually die. You can find proof of that when you think about things, and this is a little like extreme, but when you think about things like the prison system and how they put people in like what's called the hole. I think there's a great story or documentary about Khalif Browder where they talk about how they put him into what they call the Bing, and how after 40 days of just solitary confinement, your mind just totally shifts. So social interaction is big. Make sure that you take time to get things done, like hanging out with friends, enjoying your hobbies. Let's say building like future connections, networking, like all those things are very important. And as a matter of fact, that actually ties into the rest part. Make sure you're taking time out to do other things outside of your business, or just let's say like being by yourself or whatever. Like, you need to have social interactions. So that's tip number 5. All right, tip number 6. Your diet. You got to make sure that you're staying away from processed foods. So I know that it's tempting to go to the McDonald's, the KFC, the Popeyes, and things like that. But these foods actually will slow you down and also bring down your mood. And there's a lot of information out there that would essentially verify that. Gut health is very much connected to your mental health. And in books like Limitless by Jim Quick, it talks about how you have 2 brains. You have the brain up here and then the brain down here, and they're connected. And you want to make sure that you're very intentional about the food that you eat. This is a great book that I'm about to read called Brain Food. And it's going to tell you everything that I just told you, but also more into detail about the different types of foods that you should be eating. So for instance, you want to get those leafy greens, obviously the fruits and things like that. Blueberries are really great for your mental energy. Also walnuts, fatty fish oils, things like that is really going to help you with your mood. There's a lot of people that want to step away from the medications, right? Want to become, let's say, less westernized and more like easternized, if that's the correct term to put it. And to do that, you need to make sure that what you're putting into your body is going to give you the results, the investments, the ROI that you're looking for. Another thing that I'm doing now, or I've been doing lately, is drinking teas. So I stay away from carbonated drinks, so the sodas and things like that, I really don't partake in. I'm all about trying to make sure that I have the energy to be the best therapist, the best life coach, the best fiance right now, and everything else, right? But I can't do that unless I'm eating healthy. So the leafy greens, you want to make sure that you're eating the blueberries, the walnuts. Don't be afraid of multivitamins, okay? And you can go in and whether it's ask your provider or even go into like a Walmart, CVS, and do a consultation to figure out which is the best for you. But make sure that what you're putting in your body is giving you the results that you need. So tip number 6, make sure that you're taking care of your gut health, right? Your diet. All right, tip number 7, and this is one of my favorites because I do it almost every day, exercise, okay? So when you exercise, the brain releases a lot of chemicals such as endorphins that helps you to feel calm, feel steady. One could call it or say that the endorphins are the pain-killing emotions, or I'm sorry, not the emotions, but the pain-killing chemicals that help you to feel more calmer, to help you with that stress, that anxiety, that depression, or for a lot of people, that anger. They go to the gym, they work out, they put all their energy into the weights, and now they feel relaxed, they feel calm. And this is something I would love for you to start to implement into your daily routine. Now, for those people that have never gone to the gym, or let's say you find yourself kind of like going sometimes and then, falling off, start slow. No one says that you have to go to a gym for an hour a day, 5 days a week. That's what I do, but I've been doing this for years now. But for you, tell yourself, hey, for 20 minutes after work, I'm gonna go to this gym at this time. Okay, you want to be very intentional about how you set up your day. Do this and be very, very gentle with yourself if you miss a day. Okay, don't beat yourself up because that's gonna make it more unlikely that you're gonna go to the gym. So give yourself grace, but also be very intentional about how you spend your time in the gym. And also, you don't have to go to the gym. This could be you going for a brisk walk, a bike ride, mountain climbing, hiking, like whatever it is, swimming, whatever it is that fits your boat. So exercise is tip number 7. All right, tip number 8, and this one may sound common sense, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. Find yourself a therapist or a coach, okay? Now, this one, I know for a lot of people, they may roll their eyes, or maybe they say, hey, I've gone and it hasn't worked. But guys, when you are finding a therapist, you have to find the right one. It's kind of like trying to find a barber or a mechanic or even a physician. You want to find one that is aligned with your values and that can give you what you need, that specializes in what you need. And there's a ton of places, I'm going to give you some right now that you can go to. So you have Psychology Today, you have Hello Alma, you have BetterHelp, you have Open Path, but then also don't be afraid to contact your EAPs, right? These are a lot of places that you can go, and for some of them, whether you have insurance or not, it may be very, very like low cost, okay? So I want to try to take that barrier out for a lot of people. But then also, everything now is definitely virtual. So you have time, whether it's like early in the morning, late in the afternoon, like you have time to give 45 minutes or an hour to your mental health. It's an investment, guys, and that's what I want you guys to see it as. Now, am I saying that you have to go to the therapist if you're experiencing sadness? Not necessarily. The key thing is that you want to see if it's affecting your ability to go to work, or let's say even your productivity at work, or also let's say your relationships, your ability to have fun and enjoy things, like whatever the case it may be. Because again, with tip number 1, as I mentioned, these emotions are normal. Everyone that you look up to, everyone that you communicate with, they experience sadness, they experience stress, and they experience, let's say, anger and all the other emotions. And I don't want you to think that you are unique by experiencing these things, okay? So that is the next tip. Tip number 8, make sure that you're finding yourself a therapist or a coach. All right, tip number 9, gratitude. This is something that's very, very important in a goal-focused, a result-oriented, or an outcome-based world where we're always focused on the bottom line. We're not focused on the process, we're not focused on the moment, but we're focused on where we haven't gone yet. So when it comes to things like, let's say, like I said, goals, or let's say how much money you make, or the job title and all that stuff, like you need to be able to practice gratitude, because goals are something that's fleeting. And what I mean by that is the feeling of happiness that you get from goals. This is the difference between goals and values, and that's something that I didn't really discuss, but something that I will probably discuss later. You want to be focused on your values, and things like gratitude helps you to do that. You want to be focused on the process. So I want you to take 3 minutes today, close your eyes, and ask yourself, what are 4 things that you're grateful for, each within the 4 domains of life, okay? So what are you grateful for when it comes to your career and education? What is it that you're grateful for when it comes to your relationships, your leisure time, and even your personal growth and personal health? And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna challenge you to post those things in the comments below, those 4 things. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna post my 4. Gratitude is almost like that, and I'm very cautious when I say this, but for some people, it could be that silver bullet that they're looking for, especially for those who look around and they have things that they want in life, but still don't have that happiness. Or those that are feeling really down and out and feel that there's no hope. There's something that you can be grateful for. And once you find that, once you latch onto that, it's gonna give you the energy that you need to take the next step in creating the life that you want. So gratitude, number 9, don't forget it. As a matter of fact, it's something that you should probably start to instill into your day-to-day practices. A lot of people do it early in the morning when they first wake up. That's tip number 9. All right, last but not least, tip number 10, and I'm so glad that you made it all the way to the end. This is my favorite. This is a big one for me. Self-compassion. And I'm gonna say that again, self-compassion. Guys, there's this inner critic that you have that I have as well. And this inner critic will say things like, you can't do this. No one likes you. You're not good enough. Like, we all have that little voice that's in our head. And again, there's more information about why that exists and why it's normal. As a matter of fact, I'll just tell you just really quickly, I kind of already did, but the reason why we have that inner critic is because it's there to actually protect us. It's there to make sure that we don't get out of line, that when we step outside of our comfort zone, we don't go too far to where we hurt ourselves. But again, that's where you go back to tip number 1. You have to start to normalize these things. Or as I said, you have to start to accept and embrace these things, okay? Tip number 10, self-compassion. And the way that you would do this is you will first acknowledge the hurt and the pain that you have. Don't overlook it. For my men out there that's watching this video, you know we do a really good job with this. Acknowledge that you're hurting. For me, I sometimes even say, this is pain. And believe it or not, I get a sense of relief by saying that. It's like a whew. So acknowledge your pain. The second part is you want to respond to your pain the way that you will respond to a friend that is in this same position. So you may have a brother, a friend, or let's say even like a mentor or a parent, someone that is struggling with something that you've struggled with before. There's something that you're gonna say to them. And I want you to start to practice saying that same thing to yourself, whether it's, you can get through this, or you can do hard things. You're gonna make it, right? I believe in you. Whatever it is, you wanna start to implement this into your self-talk, because that inner critic is there, it's loud, and it's with us every day. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna challenge you to try to go 24 hours without a negative thought. Here's the catch, I know you can't do it. None of us can, right? But here's the thing, that self-compassion piece is deep within us, but we have to train that part of our voice. We have to. If we don't, that inner critic is gonna become us, or it's gonna feel like it's us. And that's a whole nother topic about the separation between you and that inner voice known as the inner critic. So those are the 10 tips. Next, what I want you to do is to take one, just one, at least 10 tips, and I want you to start to implement into your day-to-day. Now, the beautiful thing about all these tips is that you can actually implement them within 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't have to take your whole day. And just to give you an example, with something like finding a therapist, you can find one on, like I said, Psychology Today, BetterHelp, OpenPath, like all these other websites. And that's something you can do for just 5 minutes. Just quickly write down 5 names of the people that you think fit for you, and then maybe tomorrow or even that day, you can reach out to them. When it comes to eating healthy, when you go to Walmart, and this is what I do to make sure I always shop healthy, and I said Walmart, where you go, Publix or Whole Foods, whatever it is, the first thing that you should do is attack your fruits and your vegetables, right? Make that the first thing on your list every time that you go into the grocery store. It takes you 5 minutes to do that. Another one that I said, as I just mentioned, like that self-compassion piece, and we can even tie in gratitude. Something that can only take that should take you maybe like 30 seconds or a minute. Like, it's not gonna take you a lot of time. And I want you guys to start to implement this and watch how it starts to grow within you. Watch how the return of your investment in these areas of your life starts to bloom dividends when it comes to work, relationships, leisure time, and all the other things, okay? So those are the 10 tips. What I want you guys to do is actually subscribe to this video, share it, and also don't forget, in the link, I'm gonna give you guys a free ebook on mindfulness, so that way you can have 10 tips that's gonna help you to deal with stress, deal with anxiety, so that you can be the best version of yourselves. So this is Coach Wells. Thank you for joining this. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna give you guys a lot more information, and yo, we're out.